श्रीकाल, नमस्ते एंड हेलो। आई होप आप लोग बिल्कुल ठीक होंगे। वेलकम बैक टू प्रीति's POV's next episode and this is a platform where we bring insightful conversation, your go-to destination where we bring stories of inspiring people जो हमारी लाइफ जर्नी को और लाइफ को सिंपल करने में थोड़ा वर्कआउट कर सकते हैं। सो टुडे वी आर हैविंग अ वेरी स्पेशल गेस्ट विद अस, बट बिफोर इंट्रोड्यूसिंग हर आई वुड लाइक टू डिस्कस द वर्ड आर्किटेक्चर। आर्किटेक्चर फॉर मी इज इट्स जस्ट नॉट इमारतें या बिल्डिंग्स नहीं होती, ये किसी के सपने होते हैं, किसी की उम्मीदें होती हैं एंड आर्किटेक्ट्स बी इन टू देयर शूज, वो उस कैनवस पे उस पार के साथ उनकी उम्मीदों और उनके सपनों को इमारतों का रूप देते हैं। सो टुडे वी आर हैविंग वेरी एम्बिशियस एंड डेडिकेटेड आर्किटेक्ट Praneet Babbar ma'am. Welcome ma'am.
Thank you so much Prity for having me here. I absolutely love what you have just said. That is so perfect. Perfect to what I believe, not just what is out there, but what I believe. When we design, we always try and, as you said, live in the shoes of the client, because as I tell my staff and everybody that I work with, the architect is there just for that initial phase. I am going to create and then I'm going to leave. It's the person whose house it is, building it is, office it is, bakery even, who has to actually live in that space forever and ever. So if I have made the space to my liking, I have failed. The space has to reflect the person, their personality, their likes and dislikes. It has to be a reflection of who they are, their wants, their needs, everything put together. So you're absolutely spot on with what your first sentence was.
Thank you so much ma'am. And I would like to start with the very beginning, your childhood, your birth, and then the journey आपने कैसे शुरू किया, and then how did you just became it's just a brand. And I'm so just impressed with it, all that. So just give a brief about you to our viewers and so we can get to know.
So Prity, I've really come across the country, literally, right? I was born, brought up, school, everything in Madras.
Okay.
And having done that, I spent a couple of years in boarding school in Sanawar, and along the way, I kept adding to my experiences. I went, after boarding school, went back to Madras to do undergraduate. Undergraduate karke, as you know, which is common in the South, everybody goes to the US to do their masters. Okay. So like a good South Indian child, I went to the US to do my masters, do my masters in architecture. I was fortunate to get into the Rhode Island School of Design, which is considered one of the best schools for architecture in the US. And truly, that was a mind-altering experience, because everything that we had learned, I had to unlearn and then relearn.
Okay, that is something
what we talked about right in the beginning about designing for the people, understanding for the people. That is something that I really picked up while I was in the US, right? That it doesn't matter. It's not about creating just a pretty space. There is also the function. There's a very famous saying called form follows function. And that is the most important aspect of any architecture, right? You cannot just say, oh, it's pretty because I want pretty. It has to be per the requirements, per the form, per the function required by the person, right? So yes, following that, I was in the US for a total of about 10 years, between Providence, where the Rhode Island School of Design is. Then my first job was in Connecticut. My second and final in the US was in New York City itself. Okay. And lo and behold, I met my husband on an unplanned trip to India.
Okay.
And that was it. That was love, and that's what brought me to Amritsar. I came back to Amritsar and I thought I had worked enough. बहुत हो गया. मैं अब रिटायर होने वाली हूँ. I told everybody in the US कि मैं जा रही हूँ जी. मैंने अब काम नहीं करना. मैंने रिटायर करनी है. 10 साल नहीं, हले 5 साल ही होए सीगे. काम करके मैं क्या बहुत हो गया. ਹੁਣ जी मैं ऐश करना. मैं इत्थे अमृतसर जाके मैं रिटायरमेंट, मैं पार्टियां करने हैं, मूवीज से जावांगी. बहुत हो गया काम करके 5 साल. इत्थे आके the one thing I came back with from the US, not too many clothes and luggage, oh nahi si, but I had 30 cartons of books. Right? That was a passion, still is a passion. Between architecture, their books, you know, fiction books, bahut sige, 30 books. So first month I spent in Amritsar. I spent as a tourist. I roamed all the galiyan of the old city of Amritsar. Swere उठ के I tell my driver, चल चलिए. Plastic दी गलियां, दवाइयां दी गलियां, मच्छी मंडी, you know, where the gold, silver, सारा कुछ एक गली गली करके. This was January. By the time I finished doing that, and I didn't know too many people in Amritsar. So I was on my own. Oh karke, then I said, now garmiyan aa gayi, hun ki kariye? Chalo, unbox my you know, cartons of books. Chalo, unbox karke I put them in height order. Then I put them in alphabetic order. Then I put them in color code. Then I said, hun ki kariye? Na te movie theatre hai, ना ते किधरे नु जाननो है. चलो काम कर लिए. And that's when I started Studios PMB. And so yes, that's how I started Studios PMB as an architectural firm. As they say, you know, boredom is the best thing for designers. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was bored and I said, let me get back to what I love, designing. And that's how I started Studios PMB here in Amritsar. Because architecture, yes, architecture is not temporary. Architecture is not, it's something that you want to be able to pass on to your children. It's a legacy. It's not something that is in today, out tomorrow. At least we don't design with that kind of thing in mind.
So, ma'am, can you share any particular project? मतलब जैसे कि कुछ भी बहुत ज़्यादा कोई भी particular that could be you know, बहुत ज़्यादा rewarding हो या बहुत ज़्यादा challenging रहा हो?
There are several of those. And the way, you know, I mean, I enjoy all my projects. Challenges, all projects have challenges, whether it's budgetary challenges, whether it's design challenges. And they're all fun. And there's something that every project offers in terms of learning. And if we stop learning, we are killing ourselves. So there isn't any one project that I can say that I've learned a lot from or less more, because honestly, we learn from every project, from every client, every job, every project comes with its challenges. Right? There are some where you have, you know, I mean, the most challenging is always ones where time constraint, budget constraint. How you get around that, how you know, surmount those challenges is your success.
So, ma'am, is there any project जो किसी ने कह दिया हो कि हाँ 15 दिन में ये चीज़ चाहिए या 1 महीने में ये चीज़ चाहिए, मतलब and you are like कि ये तो घर है एक, मतलब एक like
all of them, by the way, are like that. Everybody is urgent, everybody is this thing, but yes, that's part of the communication where you tell a client that, listen, this is not the industry where it's not I'm not making a lehenga for you. This is a house and it's not going to be done in weeks. There is under no.
The shortest you have taken like for any project?
It will take even the smallest of smallest will take 3-4 months. Because no matter what you do, there are weather issues, there are things that are just not in our control. I can put as much manpower, right? But if my POP doesn't dry, I'm giving you something that's so mundane. POP doesn't dry. There's nothing that, you or I, and what people don't understand, that is so, so connected to the weather. There's a huge part of our work which is connected to the weather and not in our control at all. In India, we don't do, when you do metal construction, the whole structure is in metal, then it's less dependent on weather. But given our, means of construction, there's a large part which is weather dependent. And that, unfortunately, is not in our control.
Just like that.
Yeah.
You still learn.
You still learn. Oh, you must. My point is that we must. The minute you stop learning, the minute you say that you've learnt it all.
So nowadays, a lot of female architects are there. So apparently it's not a thing, but that this is or this have been a male dominating society, है ना? And at your time you started as an architect. So at that time you face any challenges, or like still you feel any challenges, or like you go through anything like that?
Let me tell you, Prity, the industry is not male dominated only just in India. I'm talking about even from my experience in the US. It's a male dominated industry all around the world. It's changing now. It's changing now, and in the south of India, it had changed sooner than it is, but in the north now we are caught up. We're completely caught up. I will tell you a funny incident. This is one of my first projects in the US. As a junior architect, when you're sitting in a meeting, nobody asks you a question, right? So you're just there as a sidekick. Till the day when I became the project architect. And the northeast of America, construction is primarily controlled by an Italian, it's very dominated by male Italians, right? Who are generally known to be, quite chauvinistic in their ways. So for them, my first meeting as project architect, the person assisting me, the second in line, was also an Italian man. And interestingly, all the questions they asked that poor man. But the poor man didn't have the answers. So he used to he'd look at me and go, Praneet, and I'd answer the question. It took 3 full meetings for the entire team to realize कि भैया, I have the answers, not Joe. Bichara Joe used to look embarrassed every time the question was asked of him. He didn't have the answers. But yes, that's the reality of it. And you take it with a pinch of salt. But I'll tell you another interesting incident. When I started working here, 20 years ago now, I put an ad in the paper. And, I had somebody who came in for an interview with her father, this girl. And after, she was very good. But her father tells me, after the interview, which I to date do not understand why she said that, was why he said that. He said, "Change kar de, kuriyan kam nahi kar de." And I'm saying, but your daughter is interviewing. What are you saying? Main nahi change kar di, ya thode kuri nahi change kar de. Which part? What is the point of this conversation? But that was the attitude back then. That was the attitude. So it wasn't just industry specific to the architecture industry, but it was the job market in general. That was the attitude, that change kar de, kuriyan kam nahi kar de. So yes, we've come a long way. We're all working women now. We've come a long, long way. My entire office, by the way, has been all women for the longest time. Now we have one guy, But we actually had to tell him that, are you okay? We are a women-only office. Are you comfortable? Are you comfortable? We're a female-dominated office. Are you comfortable? And he said, ma'am, I'm fine. I said, welcome. Then please join us. We are not, we are not biased. But if you are,
Usually women can never make uncomfortable. मतलब men
Yeah.
but it's just like women get uncomfortable, na? They get uncomfortable.
not really. Not even the men feel uncomfortable with all women. Yeah. They do too. Like we sit together. Mine is an open office, right? We don't have, even I don't have a closed office. Everybody, the whole office is actually one large room. Mine's slightly cordoned off, but it's all one large office. So we sit together. The whole concept is that I want for it to be a fun space. I want everybody to come and enjoy what we do. We go there every day. And if I have to get up in the morning and start worrying about going to work and not looking forward to it, it just feels sad. So we try and have as much fun as we can. So for a man to have fun with us is exceptional. So yes, he has fun with us and we enjoy his company and we're open to that.
Okay, so ma'am, you talked ना कि people come to you and say कि trend में क्या चल रहा है, आप वो design कर दो. तो फिर but basically your designs are based on innovation and आप जिस कंपटीशन में ये जो इंडस्ट्री है काफ़ी कंपटीशन है इस इंडस्ट्री में, तो हाउ डू यू मेंटेन दैट, हाउ डू यू स्टे अपडेटेड, वो कैसे ऑल टुगेदर आप मेंटेन करते हो?
So yes, staying up with the trends no matter what is important. Not only trends, but there's always innovation in the industry. And now more so than ever, there's so much, constantly coming in new products, new, methods. So one has to stay, up to date with that. Not so much with trends in design per se, because that's not something, but trends in material, trends in methodologies is important to stay updated. Now, how do we stay updated? Honestly, in today's day and age, it's easier than back in the day. In the digital age, everything is out there, right? And I say this to my own kids, I say this to everybody, I say this to my staff. The information is out there, you have to know to ask the question. It's all at our fingertips. We, again, I know I sound like a dinosaur, but back in the day, you had to go to a library to get information. You had to wait till that magazine came to your doorstep to get the information. You had to go attend trade shows to get information, right? These were the traditional sources of, acquiring knowledge. Now you don't, it's all thrown at you. Honestly, Instagram is a terrific source. Terrific.
Once you see something, like once you have seen that
Yes.
scene of homes.
So from our perspective, we are looking at issues like sustainability, how you, SDG goals, all these things that we want to stay updated with. So whatever your focus is, honestly, it's quite simple. Focus and Instagram will throw it to you. But you have to just be asking the questions. There are now, even trade shows and events have become multifold. Earlier, there used to be maximum one a year. You had to wait. Now, there's so many, and to them has become easier. The whole world has changed that ways so much. And honestly, what's really changed in India is earlier you only got Indian made things. Now with trade, free trade, free trade I shouldn't say, but yes, trade opening up, everything is at your fingertips from around the world. You can get, any material from anywhere in the world. Again, it comes down to just awareness.
And how you use
You have to be aware of what's out there. That is a prime responsibility of an architect. Knowing what's out there, keeping your eyes open, asking the questions, and easy to stay in touch.
तो मैम कोलैबोरेशन एंड एसोसिएशन नाउअडेज आई थिंक जो ये टाइम है ना इट्स लाइक मतलब कि बहुत कोलैबोरेशन का टाइम है. सो एनी रिमार्केबल कोलैबोरेशन और प्रोजेक्ट यू हैव बीन डन और आप कर रहे हो जो अभी?
When you say collaborations, in our case, every job is a collaboration if you were to look at it, right? You're collaborating with your client to put it up. So, all jobs, our work is a collaboration. You're collaborating with that person to create something. You know, whether it's a homeowner, whether it's a developer, whether it's whatever, your client is a collaborator. Really, that is the right word for the client, is not just that, but the person is a collaborator. If you see it that ways, only then is the project successful.
Some of the famous or remarkable, we can get to know the projects we have.
Mukut House on Mall Road, right? I think that's been one of the most interesting ones, even in terms of the shape, the whole outlook of it. Mukut House is a very interesting, and here's where we put in a lot of thought, right? We looked at it, and we looked at mall buildings that work locally, because you also have to look at it in the context of the environment that you're building in, the city, what works, because every city has a specific formula, I should say. What you would have noticed that in Amritsar, malls have not been as successful as high street stores, right? And they only go up. Retail will only work for a maximum of 3 floors. So here we had a building that could be much more, right? So we first created our 3 floors of retail, and then we said, what do we do with the rest? No point taking retail further up. It's not going to work. We had seen that around us, beyond 3 floors, actually 2 floors, because basement plus 2. More than that, retail doesn't work. We had seen that. So then we also analyzed that we really did not have a office building in Amritsar that was a dedicated office building at the time. When I say dedicated, everything in Ranjit Avenue that we had, I'm talking about again 5 years ago, 6 years ago when we started planning. There was no office, there still isn't really, a building where an office you have like you have in Delhi or Bombay or anything, where you have a reception, a formal reception. Then you go up to the office. And Mukut House is the only building that has that. You enter, the entrance is separate. I'm not entering from my retail section. I have a separate entrance, and I enter the office space from that separately. My parking, my drop off, everything is separate. Most other buildings, all that is common. So then I'm vying for all these amenities with my retail customer. Here I have a separate dedicated office. So the office space gets a proper due of its own. As well as then we said, what does a person that going to work, what do they need? We looked at their needs, and then targeted, restaurants, targeted banqueting, all these spaces then were added to the whole planning of Mukut House, the function, and then put the whole thing together. So you must visit. Yes, it's a very interestingly planned building, and probably still one of the most unique in its function. And of course, you would have all seen the shape and the way it is built. Design-wise, it's also very unique, very different. Yes, in terms of challenges, we had lots and lots from, constraints from ASI being close to Company Bagh. We had those constraints, several, and plus we were building higher rise at the time, one of the highest rises in Amritsar. So yes, all those challenges, and I think we came out with a fabulous product.
what advice you would be giving to the aspiring architect, especially to the females, what they should follow?
Advice. Number one, you have to work in the field, right? To really learn this profession, a desk job is never going to give you what you need. You need to be out there, you need to be at a site, you need to get your hands dirty. You cannot expect to learn this job. When you leave college, you do not know the profession. I cannot stress that more. A lot of kids come out of college thinking that they know it all, but this is not one of those professions that you really don't know anything. Because this is not a profession where you can learn it by doing it on paper. Because that's only on paper. Please understand that that is not the real world. There are so many real world considerations in this profession. Right? So, number one, understand that you know nothing when you get out of college. Number one. Number two, get a great internship, preferably with a smaller firm, because a smaller firm will teach you different aspects of the profession, because there are several. It is not it's not one of those professions where just knowing one part of it will get you through. There are several. It's talk about collaboration. Every job is a collaboration of different elements. In terms of design, you are working with somebody who's doing the bricks and mortar. You're doing material collaborations, thought collaborations, design collaboration. It's a collaborative art. Architecture is not a one-man show. It is collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. So therefore, for a budding, aspiring architect, understand these things about the profession. Open yourself up to collaboration. Open yourself up to understanding what each person brings to the table. When I sit with my team, I ask everybody that each of them needs to be thinking about what their thoughts on a project are, because till you incorporate 20 different views, 20 different thoughts, I haven't really got the project together. I need everybody. Everybody has something valid in their thought process. Substantiate your stand, whatever you believe in strongly, and then it will go through. So you must, open yourself up to work experience in the field, working with different people, working with different vendors, and understanding then the business aspect of it, because that's, yes.
Okay, so ma'am, the landscape and architecture in India, how do you envision that? How do you feel yourself upcoming time में, कि आपकी क्या contribution होगी? Or like if we specifically talk about the city Amritsar, कि इसमें आपकी क्या contribution होगी?
So I really believe that we need to look much more at sustainability in design. We are not looking at that enough. Our focus is on Prity. What is pretty? What is trending? We don't look at the future. The future is sustainability, sustainability, sustainability. We have to use our elements in our architecture, design. Pay attention to the surroundings. That is something, the context of the situation. Architecture in India has come a long way and honestly, we are doing world-class design now. Truly, India architecture has, we're competing with the best. We are right there with the best. Our designers, our architects in India are now doing some of the best work in the world. We are second to none. Yes, to my advice, what I'm giving is not, just to the local architects, but I would say more to the aspiring budding architects that, guys, that is something you have to look at. Is we cannot afford to ignore sustainability. Our planet is anyways, if we heading to destruction. If we don't look at these things, we're just making it get there faster. And we have to, as responsible citizens, we have to look at these elements and enforce it. Not just incorporate it, enforce it in our design. Only then have we really fulfilled what we are meant to do.
Okay, so ma'am, agar beyond architecture ki hum baat kare, you are so well known for your good initiatives. If I talk about Phulkari, so will you please share your overview about Phulkari in brief and how you managed the idea and how the idea came to your mind?
Prity, a couple of things. Having, as I mentioned to you right in the beginning, right, I come from a very different world. I grew up in Madras. I was very fortunate to have parents. I traveled all over. I had, before I even moved to Amritsar, I had traveled all over the world. I, lived abroad. In between, while I was in college in Madras, I even interned in France. So lived in France for a while, aside from my tenure. So I, traveled all over the world, whether it was Japan, Hong Kong, all over. And I really, really thank my parents for letting me do this, gave me the opportunity to do this, because I do realize that I was one of the very, very fortunate women who was able to do this in my time, right? But also it gave me an exposure to an entirely different world, right? Exposure to very different cultures, exposure to ways things worked elsewhere. And socially, my big thing was I have had exposure to different ways that societies work, which is very different to having grown up here. Now, one key element that I found in society here was interaction between other women. I had interest beyond just my own work. If you ask me to attend a football game, so I attended a football game in the US. I didn't know how the sport worked. I didn't know which way the ball was supposed to go. But yes, I was always open to experiences. And what I learned from that is by opening yourself to experience different experiences, you always learn something new, right? Anywhere you go, the minute you just open yourself, go experience it, then you can say I like or don't like. Once you have experienced it, right? But that is your lesson. You experience and then you come out with a lesson. Whatever the lesson, I like, don't like, this is added to my knowledge. To me, Prity, honestly, everything adds to my knowledge. I really can't say anything that hasn't, right? Another thing that my mother always taught me was that there's nothing that's boring. If you find something boring, you are boring. Okay. It's very simple, right? In addition to that, I found that women in Amritsar didn't have enough opportunity to meet others. society we didn't have platforms. It was very limited to the people I knew. But within the people that I knew, there was really not enough opportunity to know the person, know my own friends well enough. I wasn't sure whether my friend really had an interest in art. There was no way that this came up in conversation. I would maximum be able to talk to you about your children, school, because these are things that I know about you. I don't know you as a person. There was no way of knowing that. And looked, didn't come up with a good solution. And I had seen women's organizations are not uncommon. Amritsar didn't have any, but elsewhere, and like I said, again, because I had been exposed, because I had grown up in Madras, lived in New York, seen that there were women's platforms were, very liberating for the women to be out there, meet other people. And so I had this idea, but didn't implement it for a very long time. Till I was out for lunch with some friends. That day, I finished lunch and I headed to a client's house, and she also brought it up. She said, Praneet, what happened to that? You mentioned that concept of this women's platform. What happened? And I said, you know what? This is it. This is a call from the gods. They're telling me, the universe is telling me that I got to do this. And so I had the concept was already worked out in my head. It wasn't that I hadn't thought about it. I had by then started researching, looking at different organizations, how they worked, then how it would apply in Amritsar, taking the best of different organizations, studying all these organizations, coming up with a formula that worked, what I thought would work in Amritsar. Came home that day, sent a message with, created this message on how I envisioned Phulkari. We didn't have a name back then. This women's organization, how I envisioned it would work and what it was about. Like I said, the key here was I wanted it to be a platform for learning, for people to experience new things, expand their horizons. It was my idea of giving back. My idea, I can't say it's charity, but it was giving back. I realized how fortunate I was to have had so much exposure. And I sent this message out to friends, and it was incredible, the responses. Instantly I had responses from, 15, 20 people. And they became my committee, my first committee. We ideated, we came up with a name. And the idea behind the name Phulkari itself was that all of us women had different interests, like the various colors in a dupatta, and you come together to form something beautiful. And that's how Phulkari was born. We started off, the basic idea, the basic thing we thought was that, okay, fine, we'll have these meetings where we discuss issues, and we printed 50 forms. We thought 50 forms, that was a good number. And honestly, didn't think we'd have more interest. But let me tell you, within days, and I think it was not more than 2-3 days, the person collecting forms calls me and says, Praneet, I have 135 forms here. And we were perplexed because we only printed 50. So people had gone out, photocopied the forms and sent it with their money, with their membership. That's how we started. And so some of the key concepts here are that, like I mentioned, exposure equals learning. That's our mantra at Phulkari. We expose our members to something new, something different. They come back having learned something. So we are not a platform of commerce. Commerce to hota hai, because when I meet people, automatically you know what I do, I know what you do. That is commerce. I don't have to sell myself. Bas, knowing what you do, knowing what I do is enough, right? But if I can do that at the same time, learn something new about, even food, cooking, books. So we penned down 9 different avenues we thought that we should cover in a year. The idea being that I may not be interested in a particular subject, but somebody else is. So we have subjects ranging from books to law, business and finance, current events, art and performing arts, handicrafts, and fashion is part of that. Cooking and nutrition, health and ecology. So in these 9 topics, we pretty much cover everything. And those are covered through the year. And so not only am I exposed to a particular subject and learn something new, but I also see and I meet people who are interested in the same subject, which goes back to my very first thing, as I mentioned, I get to know my own friends in better depth. We have a deeper relationship because now we're not just talking about, the clothes that we wear or the children, but we're able to talk about anything ranging, like I said, from politics to books to, the environment. Because yes, we attended that meeting together and we know each other's views through these events and meetings. So yes, Phulkari since then though has come a long, long way. We started off this ways. Very soon after, we felt that we are learning. We need to now share our learnings with society at large. The very first project that we took on was cervical cancer awareness. I lost my father to cancer, and therefore the subject is close to my heart. But added to that, again, backed with a lot of research, we figured that cancer was a field that was too big to bite. There's nothing that we can do, that we can really contribute in a meaningful way to the vast body of cancers. Cervical cancer, though, was a particular field that there is a perceivable goal in, insight, is the only 100% preventable cancer. It's the only cancer with a vaccine, right? So given all the many cancers, we figured let's work on the one that we can actually tick off of the list. Let's take it off. So we work very hard, have been doing so for the past 7 years, working to eradicate cervical cancer, number one. And this year, I don't know if you are aware, but the government, it was in the budget this year, the finance minister has said that they are going to vaccinate girls between the age of 9 and 14, which is a huge, huge boost to our program, because that's really what we've been trying to work with the government. We were saying, just put it on the vaccine list. It's not even on the mandatory vaccine list. So now with the government saying that they're going to vaccinate and do it for free, that's phenomenal. That is some of the best news that we could have gotten. Added to that, we also work on literacy. We have 2 very strong programs, a functional English program. And the reason I say functional English, we realized that 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. We realized that children could read and write, but speaking with the idea of being employable. So it's not just speaking English, but speaking with the goal of making them employable, right? So they learn the language with that particular aspect in mind. And in addition to that, we have a digital literacy program. And that again is focused on employability, because as you know, in any job, unless you're digitally literate now, there is no job that you have out there without that aspect. So these are our fields. We have environmental programs. We have a lot of short-term programs as well. You know, donations of different kinds. We've got a dialysis center set up at Lal Hospital, charitable dialysis. We set up a solar plant. So various, over the years, you know, various donations, COVID time donations, all that stuff. And we have a chapter now in Jalandhar, and soon, hopefully, many more.
Okay, so that is something our way of giving back to the society.
Yeah.
So being an Amritsari, and you all have that a short memory you have from Amritsar, or you advice kind of thing you would like to, or you want to see in Amritsar.
What do I want to see in Amritsar?
Yes.
Well, when I came, honestly, I only wanted a coffee shop. वो मिल गया है. बहुत हैं यहाँ coffee shops.
You said that memory. I remember that was like when you returned back from USA.
Yeah.
It was like 1 month मैंने tourist की तरह बिताया है.
Yeah, there was no coffee shop.
Okay.
There was no coffee shop. Movie theaters थे, but it was, you know, the type that you had to actually go किसी को husband के साथ. You couldn't go on your own. So Amritsar has come a long, long way, really long way. I would like to say though that, and I think we've all come a long, long, long way from where we were 20 years ago. But pride in a city, pride in where you belong, takes it to a whole other level. I'll give you a very simple example. I learned this when I was in France. It's a small town called Blois, and there's a chateau there. Chateau is castle. And the chateau itself is entirely run on a voluntary basis by the population of the city, of the town, I would say. It's a small town. And primarily because they're just so proud of their town. It's entirely, nobody in the chateau, even flowers are put every day. Fresh flowers are changed. Everybody, the tourist guide tak, everybody is a volunteer because they are just so proud of their city. When you have pride in your city, lots of things fall in place. Lots. You know, we talk about there being trash in the city. That's because the person doesn't care. When you have pride in your city, you automatically care. You will automatically not throw the trash. That civic sense that I think all Amritsaris, we all talk about that needs to improve, stems from pride. If we are able to instill that pride in where we live, where we belong, we're all sorted.
Okay.
So being an Amritsari, and you have that short memory when you return from, out overseas. So what is the short memory of Amritsar, or any advice you want to, or change you want to see in Amritsar? Okay, so ma'am, thank you so much for whatever the conversation you bring on this table. It was so informative. And for all those aspiring architects, even listening, and then he or she, can have a bucket of knowledge from whatever you have shared.
Your ideas matter.
Oh, thank you so much. This is so lovely. And Prity, I have to thank you. I have really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much.
It's seriously, one of the most interesting conversations I have ever had. Thank you
so
for
much,
your
ma'am.
patience, for listening to me, and thank you to everybody here for this opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much guys for watching this episode. I hope कि इस एपिसोड से आपको काफ़ी अच्छी इन्फॉर्मेशन मिली होगी जो भी एस्पायरिंग आर्किटेक्ट्स हैं. एंड शी एज अ वुमन शेयर्ड अ लॉट ऑफ हर जर्नी एवरीथिंग आउट. तो काफ़ी इन्फॉर्मेटिव रहा होगा, और ऐसे ही अच्छे इन्फॉर्मेटिव एपिसोड्स के लिए प्लीज़ डू फॉलो Timeless Amritsar and Priti's POV on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Thank you.